Hi, everyone, and welcome to Vikings Now. And look at who we have here now. Finally, after being MIA weeks 1, weeks 2, Vikings win again. So we thought it was safe. We wouldn't be, changing the karma like you were here and then something went wrong. Ahmad Hicks, he works here at Fox 9. I just wanted to make sure you guys all remember him. Pierre Noujaim is here, and your Minnesota Vikings are 3-0, exactly like how you guys called it in the preseason. You guys were saying these doubters are wrong. The experts are wrong. The 6 wins, they must have been saying 6 wins in the first 6 weeks of the season is what they must have been calling.
I think my final prediction before the season started was 10 or 12 wins. And I said that depends on what Sam Darnold shows up. I was a believer in Sam Darnold.
I don't remember you telling me that at all.
I don't remember that.
You telling me
Come
that
on,
at all.
12 wins? Are you kidding?
Go pull it up on First and North. I said 10 or 11 wins depending on who shows up with quarterback play. First and North. Said that right before the first week of the season. I didn't think that they would start 3-0, though. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you about that. But I did think that they could get to 10 or 11 wins this year.
All right. First and North is a podcast you can find on Fox Local. It's with the other 3 markets in the division. They banter about the Bears, the Packers, and the Lions. But we don't care because we're only talking about the Vikings. Pierre, I'm blown away. I'm like, jaw is on the floor right now at what this team has done. Not that they've won them, but how they have won.
Yeah, and that's really where it is right there. It's kind of been a very interesting progression of how this team has played in the first 3 weeks. After week 1, we were all saying, yeah, but it's the Giants. Let's see what they can do after the Giants. Let's really see what they can do when the 49ers come to town. They come into town, or the 49ers come into town, take care of business against the 49ers. Remember, that game really probably could have been a lot wider of margin if Minnesota doesn't turn the ball over twice in the red zone. Really handle business against the 49ers. And then today, against the upstart Houston Texans, who have a 3-headed monster at wide receiver. I know they were playing without Joe Mixon. He's a big part of their offense. But really making Houston's offense look very pedestrian. And once again, the credit to all the coaching staff. I'm not just going to single out Brian Flores because this was just a complete team win. You heard Kevin O'Connell say after the game, complete team win, top to bottom. Kevin O'Connell has this team ready to play week in and week out, and it's very clear that everybody has bought in so far.
Here's my thing with the Minnesota Vikings. Last year, they had a top 15 defense for the first half of the season. They went downhill when they had some injuries in that secondary. You bring in guys like we've been raving about, Dallas Turner, Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, and they are all showing up. Jerry Tillery, all the guys that Kwesi brought in via free agency this offseason, they are all living up to those offseason expectations. I also said this about Sam Darnold. He's never been on a team as talented as the Minnesota Vikings, and we all saw what Kevin O'Connell was able to do with Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall and Josh Dobbs last season, but we all said this and we all agreed on it. All those quarterbacks lacked arm strength. I asked Justin Jefferson the biggest difference between a Kirk Cousins-led offense and a Sam Darnold-led offense. He said the arm accuracy and the arm talent. He said Kirk was very accurate with the football, but he said he could not throw it as far as Sam Darnold, and he said Sam Darnold's arm strength just opens up all types of plays in this playbook. And I think we all said it. If he could just do what Kevin O'Connell tells him to do, this team will have a chance to win. And he's been doing that through 3 weeks.
And that's saying something because Cousins is in this league because of his arm and because of the accuracy he possesses. And he threw some sensational balls to Jefferson over the years. So for him to say that that's the difference is a pretty impressive statement.
Well, he wouldn't. It's not like he came out.
I know he's not going. He's not going to rip him, but he
For
likes
sure.
Kirk. They're still buddies.
Very appreciative of what Kirk did for him.
Yeah, absolutely. But to your point, for him to see that as perhaps a difference maker says a lot to me.
I mean, this guy was the number 3 overall pick for a reason, and I think everyone was quick to write him off because of the situation he was in Carolina and then with the New York Jets. I said this, and I've said it all offseason. His best wide receivers in his career, a young, unproven DJ Moore and Jamison Crowder. Neither of those guys can hold any weight to Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison when healthy. And he still hasn't even had TJ Hockenson going across the middle. So I still think the best is yet to come. But I think this is just what happens when you get a very talented quarterback and a good offensive system with playmakers.
Yeah, Sam Darnold now leads the National Football League at this recording with the most touchdown passes. So it's, Pierre, you look at what he does and I like the composure we've seen out of him.
That's what Justin Jefferson said after the game today.
God, look at me and JJ. Same
I
wavelength.
said, what's the...
Same wavelength. You did that? He didn't tell me that.
I did not. I asked Jets, I said, is anything surprising with Darnold? He said, no. His composure is just impeccable.
Right, because that touchdown he threw to Jefferson, the first one of the day, he was in the pocket, biding his time. Then he got flushed out, but still he didn't lose his composure, didn't lose the vision in front of him like so often quarterbacks do, or they'll just chuck it and get out of it and reset. That's what I find so impressive for a guy who has been chased and rattled his whole career. Now he's kind of found this confidence in the line to protect him and confidence in his receivers that he'll give him a target.
The easiest way to build confidence, too, is completion percentage. Yep. Don't turn the football over. Yep. His completion percentage through 2 weeks, last week was at over 72%. I don't know what it is after here. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but it's going to be still fairly, fairly high, around that 70% mark after today, 17 and 28 today. So that completion percentage still at a high clip, not turning the ball over. He got his arm hit. He got lucky, a little bit lucky there on that Brandon Powell play that we saw in the third quarter. But at the same time, he's not turning the ball over. Like I said, the completion percentage is high, and he's taking advantage of the opportunity. 2 straight weeks, you and I have been here. We've been talking about complementary football. Over 100 yards on the ground here today. Taking advantage of a short field after 2 Minnesota Vikings turnovers today. Creating the short field. That's why the numbers in terms of yardage aren't very high, was because he had a short field to work with. And when you do, it doesn't matter. If you go length of the field, go short field. Last week, you went length of the field, 97-yard bomb to Justin Jefferson. I mean, so everything is working right now for Sam Darnold. The coaching staff is putting him in a position to succeed. He's taking advantage of the moment. Hopefully continues next week in Green Bay. I know we'll talk about that game in a little bit. They're going to have pretty stout defense out there in Green Bay. We'll see how it goes and how that comes to fruition. But so far, so good. I mean, if you're looking for something to complain about, can't really help you.
I think 2 things that we haven't talked about that has kind of been under the radar, this offensive line play.
Yeah.
They've been, I mean, there are countless times where I'm in the press box talking to the people next to me. I'm like, look at how much time Darnold has right now. Like, he's able to go through every progression and then still find his check down or roll out a little bit, like you said, on that touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. No one open in the pocket. Extended the play, Justin Jefferson, scramble rules. You come back to your quarterback when you're deep, came back, got an easy touchdown. And Aaron Jones. Last year, this offense lacked explosion. It lacked top-end playmaking speed. This is what Aaron Jones excels at. I mean, just the short 3 to 4 yard runs, but he shows you that burst, and you're like, man, he got to the outside that fast. When you're able to stick to your running game and you're able to rely on that to open up the play action pass, that just keeps defenses on their toes. One guy in the press box asked me today, I don't feel like the Vikings screen game is that good. Why don't they always go to it? I said, well, it doesn't have to be effective every time, but I said the screen game is all to slow those rushers down. I said you don't want them knowing when the run is going to come. You don't want them knowing when you're going to take a 5-step drop back. I said, but that's when you throw in the screen. So now they're thinking, all right, is it a run? Is it a pass? Wait, do I have a free line at the quarterback, or do I need to look out for the running back over here? So it keeps the defensive lineman guessing. And so I think KOC is in his bag right now, being so creative in getting his playmakers the ball.
Well, and the other thing, the Jones touchdown today, they had Justin Jefferson in the backfield again. And that now has worked twice. It worked last week when they had him in there, and I think it was Naylor that was open on the far side because everybody's looking for Jefferson to be flip the ball on the side. So that, as you said, he's into the bag because he's confident in what his offense does. The running game, you know, teams can't tee off on Darnold because that running game is so effective right now because of the offensive line. As you said, those guys give them that opportunity, and you say complementary football, offense, defense, but it's complementary running, passing. Both are effective, and so defenses really can't go, all right, well, we'll put 8 men in the box, we'll make them throw the ball. Or we'll drop everybody back, we'll make them run the ball. Nobody has had an opportunity to try to put this Vikings offense in a box.
They can't take anything away.
Yeah, and like you're saying, like Ahmad was saying, you know, Aaron Jones has been a real shot in the arm to this offense. I mean, remember what happened last year with this Vikings run game? It was just virtually non-existent.
Especially the short yardage.
Yeah, absolutely. With Alexander Madison, you know, again, I don't mean to harp on him. No, don't mean to harp on him. But it just wasn't working here last year for whatever reason. But Aaron Jones, and a lot of people think the moment a good running back leaves his original team, people automatically assume that running back is over the hill or it's done and his career is over. I don't have an explanation as to why, but Aaron Jones is proving that, hey, I've still got plenty of football left in the tank. And a good running game opens up so many options for you. And again, T.J. Hockenson, when T.J. Hockenson comes back in his offense, and if this run game is still operating at a high clip, then we get to another level when you have the type of tight end who can really create space for you in the middle of the field, make those tough catches over the middle of the field. But in terms of how this offense is operating right now, it's on cruise control. Seems like it's absolutely on cruise control right now.
And you mentioned that, but we haven't even had a fully healthy Jordan Addison either.
Right.
Because he was banged up heading into week 1 versus the Giants, injured his other ankle. So when you're talking about playmakers not out there, Jordan Addison's not out there, TJ Hawkinson's not out there, and Jalen Naylor emerging as not only just a number 3 wide receiver for this team, but a legitimate playmaker that can make plays whenever he's called upon. So you're talking about when Sam Darnold drops back in maybe 5 weeks after the bye, give time for TJ Hawkinson to come back, he's going to have Hawkinson up the middle, Justin Jefferson going wherever he wants, Jalen Naylor taking the top off the defense, and then you can have Jordan Addison underneath, or Aaron Jones, one of your fastest members, as a check down. I mean, this offense and the potential they have for the rest of the season, I don't want to put the cart before the horse right now, but I think the sky is the limit for this team.
Well, you also have to check out Vikings postgame tonight. We have the clip of Kevin O'Connell after the game in the locker room. And it's pretty impressive for what he is saying, considering we are only 3 weeks in. And this kind of where I want to go next is, how do the expectations change for this team? Because he went in there after that game, not prompted, not asked, but he made this statement. And he said, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I said that at the beginning of this year. I will not lie to you guys. I feel this team can be something special. I feel it in this room. I feel it with these players. I'm paraphrasing what it says. You can find it out there. But I think that's pretty impressive and kind of unique that the coach goes out there. We're only at week 3, and he's trying to put in these players' heads that you're possibly on the start of a very special season.
I think that's great, and I don't blame him for saying something like that, because they have gone out and proven.
Usually coaches are always week to week. I don't mean to cut you off, but I mean, usually coaches are just week to week. Great win, boys, great week, on to Packer week, and that's it, right? They don't ever go down the road, because we ask those questions all the time. You hear them, and you're in the presser, and you go, Coach, you're sitting 3-0. You're the top seed of the NFC. How does it feel to have home field advantage throughout the postseason? And they go, whoa. We've got Green Bay next. Yeah. So for him to take that step over that line, and he knows it gets out there too, by the way. He sees all those cameras in there. So this wasn't a closed-door meeting with just him and the guys. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm to be honest, I'm a little surprised that he said that. I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised, and I'll tell you why. I remember working in Colorado back in 2008 or 2009. When the Denver Broncos started out.
Some of your best stuff, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah,
I was in high school.
2008 or 2009 in the state of Colorado with the Denver Broncos, they started out 6-0. They started out 6-0 that year. You want to know what happened? They missed the playoffs. Finished 8-8. So that's why I say I'm a little surprised to hear the head coach say something like that. But at the same time too, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion. There is nothing wrong with basking in a win. I mean, it's hard to win in this league. They just beat the 49ers and the Texans back-to-back weeks. These are
two teams that are favored to go to that conference championship.
Exactly. 2 teams that are supposed to be, or expected by a lot of people to be there in the end, at the end of the season. Just beat them both, and beat them both pretty handily, I would add. So there is plenty of reason to be excited about this team, to be excited about the future of what's ahead for this team. But at the same time, too, it is a long season. We're only 3 weeks into the season. It's a long season. Injuries can happen. People can go into funks. Who knows who gets hot at the end of the year? So I'm not sitting here, and even though it's great that they're 3-0, but in no way am I sitting here making my plans for the playoffs just yet. No chance.
I'm not sipping the Kool-Aid just yet, but I do think it's funny because before the season started, we talked about the Vegas numbers, 6-7 wins, right?
Yep.
You go to first couple of preseason games, you ask the ushers how they're feeling. I just hope that we're competitive. Then after the first game, they're like, all right, we look kind of good. I think we could win 10, 11 games. Then after the second one, they're like, dude, I think we can go to the Super Bowl. And I'm like, no, all right, let's stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Like Pierre just said, and this is something that I actually just told my friend group earlier today, it's 3 wins.
I'm not in that group. Are you in that group?
I was conveniently left off of that group.
Okay, anyways, It's easy. No, let me rephrase that. It's never easy to win in the National Football League, but it's easier to win in the first 3 months of the season because there's no pressure on you. There's no one writing you about playoff potential or playoff scenarios and things like that where you have to get wins. Like right now, you're just playing free football. You're excited to be out there after a long offseason. The pressure's not on Sam Darnold now. And we all know the history that he has and how he's under-delivered when he is seeing pressure in his face or he does have something to play for, which has not been a lot in his career. But I just take these wins with a grain of salt right now. They're good right now. There's something to build on, but these wins don't mean anything if you can't win when it matters in December and January.
There is one thing I want to point out real quick. Do you remember in the season opener when C.J. Ham fumbled in the first series and the Giants kicked the field goal to go up 3-0?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, somebody can feel free to correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I believe those 3 minutes and change that Minnesota was trailing 3-0 is the only time Minnesota's trailed all season long.
3 minutes and 26 seconds.
All season long in 3 games.
Pretty crazy.
That right there is something to hang your hat on. Absolutely.
I told people they will go as far as the defense will take them because they do have a little bit more depth than they've had in years past, but I don't think they have that depth when it comes to the cornerback position.
No.
Stephon Gilmore, Shaq
They
Griffin,
couldn't even get through training
Byron
camp.
Murphy Jr.
They had to go
I think
shopping.
as long as those 3 guys remain healthy, they have a chance to be competitive and one of the best teams in the NFC. I think if injuries start to riddle this team, that's when we'll start to look at other scenarios. But right now, if fully healthy, offensively, defensively, this is a really good team.
Well, and I think before we move on to the next thing, I think we have to, at some point, you know, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has earned his fair share of criticism, especially on this podcast, from me over the last year or two. Depth is a key word. It's a very key word. And you have to be deep at every single position, every single one. And even though Kwesi's draft history has not been the best so far here with the Vikings, he has hit a home run free agency. That's absolutely for certain. Because when you lose a guy like Danielle Hunter and you supplement him with Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Jonathan Grenard, who had 3 sacks today, by the way, against his former team, and you pick up
you pick up
Grishay Hill.
Yeah, Camus Grishay Hill, journeyman. That's a perfect example right there. Your starting linebacker goes out and Ivan Pace, and what does Camus Grishay Hill do? Come in and gets an interception on the day. This is the type of stuff. Stephon Gilmore was on the street just before the start of the season. Picks him up off the street, signs him. These are the type of moves where you're starting to piece together, I'm not going to say a championship caliber team.
Building the foundation.
Building foundation, perhaps a playoff caliber team. It's looking very much like a playoff caliber team. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah should be getting a lot of credit for the hires he made and the coaching staff. I mean, it wasn't just him and the coaching staff. KOC obviously has a final say on that. But at the same time, too, the coaching staff, the players, during the offseason to now, you see the depth of this team, and that really is a tribute to what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has done piecing together this roster.
I joked about this in the offseason on First and North that we tape every Tuesday at 2:30, and I said, you know, if I'm
on Fox Local.
On Fox Local. I said, if I'm Kwesi Adofo-Mensah,
and Fox9.com.
Yeah, the biggest concern I have this season is if Sam Darnold balls out, then you have a quarterback controversy at the end of the season because you're like, all right.
Well, he just did last week. If you watched last week's podcast, I had the answer for you. You could have talked about this last week when we talked about it. So I know all those of you have watched it, and you can comment how my suggestion is great.
I just think
Vikings should extend Darnold right now. And here's my reason. Not because he's your
because the price goes up if he does well.
Not because he's your Vikings quarterback of the future. That's McCarthy still.
Yeah.
But you're going to groom this guy. You're making him into a very desirable piece. And you will get absolutely nothing when he walks away. So you go to him this week and you say, you know what? $10 million isn't enough for you. Let's bump that to 25. And we want another year on the contract. 25 this year, 25 next year, or whatever that number is. Have Rob Brzezinski figure out what the numbers is. Then the Vikings can decide what they want to do. They don't like how McCarthy's looking in the offseason. We're going to ride Sam a little bit more. Or look what we have here. We've got a quarterback that everybody wants. And we only have 3 draft picks. The Vikings, sorry, I'm not with the organization. The Vikings only have 3 draft picks going into next season. All of a sudden, you can get a lot for this guy.
It's not bad logic. I'll agree with you there. It's not bad logic.
Not bad logic.
And you don't want to let him.
What's wrong with it?
You don't want to let him walk away. I just don't think the fact that they're going to pay him another $15 million this year, that's not going to happen. They barely have that.
You can figure out a way. Brzezinski sits there and goes, oh, we'll make this a signing bonus. It's kind of like how we have you here. We slide some money around and we'll give this as a signing bonus. We'll move this into Leonard's retirement fund and boom, we've got it under the salary cap.
Either way, it's a good problem for Kwesi Adolpho-Mensah to have. It's a great problem to have.
It's going to be a terrible problem at the end of the season when he ends up, already he leads the NFL with 11, so 30 touchdown passes is certainly in focus, and he just walks out of here, and you sit here going like, well, that was great. Now what do we do?
I think it's a good problem to have because if he takes the team far and they do well in the playoffs, then it's a no-brainer. You bring him back, and you have J.J.
But then he's going to be super expensive. Whereas you could cut a deal now by saying you weren't going to get 25 this year.
You think they're going to cut a deal now, but his agent is probably thinking like you after these 3 games.
No.
Number's already
because injuries happen in this league. He could end up like McCarthy. Don't want anything to happen like that.
And he did.
But
he
you
does
can
have
get that money.
We haven't mentioned this either. He did suffer a knee injury today. Left the game briefly. Came back in. Got a standing ovation from the crowd. Felt bad for Nick Mullins when he came out because it was a
I thought they were cheering
ovation.
him for his one play.
No.
I think Mullins thought that was for him.
But Sam Darnold did not want to talk about his knee injury after the game. Very evasive when it came to that. He said that he feels fine. The ovation from the crowd was great, but he said he wants to undergo an MRI before he comments on missed practice time, missed playing time. So hopefully no J.J. McCarthy type injury news pops up for Darnold.
Your thoughts? You've had a week to think about it. I brought it up last week, and you're like, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea.
Now.
Yeah.
So let's hear the Noujaim negativity here.
Well, I'm going to revert back to it's only been 3 games. And from what I've seen from Kevin O'Connell specifically, remember how Josh Dobbs looked like all planet for 2 games last year.
Yeah, but then
it all fell apart.
They should sign him too.
I've got more faith in the coaching staff, particularly Kevin O'Connell, when it comes to coaching his quarterbacks, than I do in Sam Darnold's long-term prospect of being this type of consistent week in and week out starter, if that makes any sense. Which leads me to say, you write it out the 1-year deal. You come back with J.J. McCarthy next year. You use the 10th overall pick on him for a reason. It's going to be a lot cheaper.
But I'm saying this
I
way.
Get it. I get it. No, I get it.
Kwesi's a Wall Street guy.
I get it.
Jim,
He's
Jim.
buying a hedge fund.
We get you're a Minnesota.
I get it.
But this is the problem. When you give all that money to quarterbacks, you hinder the rest of your team, and that's what they experience with Kirk Cousins.
I don't know the dollar figure or how it works. I'm just saying logistically, if you have team control of him going into next year, you can turn that into something that will help your team.
Asset.
I'm not saying Darnold is the answer and is going to be here 10 years.
Listen.
I'm saying figure out a way to get a piece of him so when you sell him, then you can get something.
That's your dream. That's not going to happen.
If that's the route that Minnesota decides to go, I would have no problem with it. I have no problem with it whatsoever. I just don't really see it happening. I don't really see it happening.
I don't know how you get it done, but I think on paper
it's a good problem to have. He does good this year, takes you to the playoffs. That's a win for Kwesi Adolpho-Mensah. You hand the keys over to J.J. McCarthy next year. Does okay. He still has 4 years left on his deal, 3 years after next year. So I mean, he's still a young guy. That's who you pick to lead your organization. So you got to go with that.
The good news is right now I'm trying to think off the top of my head just right now of a position or a star on your team that needs a new deal. They've already wrapped up Justin Jefferson. They've wrapped up Christian Darrisaw.
Brian O'Neill's
is getting paid right now as well. Jonathan Grenard's got a deal. Addison's still on a rookie deal. Hawkinson's been paid.
Yep.
So it's like it's not that they have to cut someone loose in order to pay someone else just right now. So that's certainly, there's wiggle room there, no doubt about it. There's wiggle room there for you to work in a deal for Sam Darnold and not be worried about your cap situation. But
and next year they have the largest cap, right? Isn't it like a ridiculous amount of money?
Well, they're going to need it with only 3 draft picks. They're going to need to go
get out of corner because Stephon Gilmore is just aging. Shaq Griffin.
That's the position.
You need to go get a lockdown cornerback because you're paying guys like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and all these talented wide receivers, but you need someone to stop them. And outside, I mean, Byron Murphy's on the last year of his deal. Shaq Griffin's on a 1-year deal. Stephon Gilmore's on a 1-year deal. So you're talking about all 3 of your starting cornerbacks on 1-year deals right now. That's where the money needs to go next offseason. You need to pay a top dollar cornerback or draft one to stop the guys like Justin Jefferson, because if not, we're going to be talking about Brian Flores' defense looking like it did last year when they had to run zone because they couldn't run man coverage because they didn't have anyone to stop anyone. So I think that's what we need to be focused on in the offseason. Right now, just bask in the Sam Darnold glory and how well he's playing. And let's just hope that he can keep it up. And then we can continue these conversations 8 weeks from now about why he's worthy of an extension. And who knows, he may start going downhill and you may be like, all right, maybe we need to get ready for J.J. McCarthy next season. So.
Aaron Jones is on somebody else who may need a contract.
He has a big game coming up next week. It's funny, we talked about fantasy football very first week before the season started. He said, look, draft me. I'm taking you guys to the promised land. He had an okay week 1. Week 2, he did not have a good game. I joked with him in the locker room. He said, I got you next week. I promise I'm going to get you 2. And I was like, okay. He almost had 2 touchdowns today, so we're chatting about it. He's like, I said, what happened on that 40-yard run? And he was like, dude, my legs got heavy. I was gassed. Oh, yeah. I was like, big game next week, though.
And then on a replay, and I think Jefferson will see this, he let his guy go.
And that's the guy that got him.
He was going like this.
And that's the guy that got him.
And that guy went all the way.
He probably thought Aaron Jones had the speed to finish it. Yeah.
So what's his comeback in the locker room? Man, I thought you're faster than that.
And that's what I told him. But I said, big week next week. And literally his smile went off his face. And he said, big time next week. And he was like, career game coming.
It's personal.
He was like, it's personal. He was like, career game coming next week. And I was like, ooh, all right, because they let him go. They let him walk. And so if you're going back to that house with this offense, and he said he called his mom the other day and told her this team is special. He said, I don't know what it is about this team, but this team is special, and this is the most fun I'm having. And I hope he has a lot of fun in Green Bay next week, certainly for my fantasy team's case.
All right, the defense, we've talked about the offense and Darnold, but again, the defense was fantastic again today. C.J. Stroud hadn't thrown a pick all year, throws 2 today. Another quarterback that probably walked off the field perplexed.
Hadn't thrown a pick, I think, since week 11 of last year, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah, he had a long streak going.
Yeah, Brian Flores is just making guys look ordinary. Just making guys who are very talented. Brock Purdy's a talented quarterback. C.J. Stroud is a talented quarterback and very well could be on his way to being one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this league over the next few years.
MVP candidate.
Yeah, sure. There's no doubt. Looked ordinary. Nico Collins, save for 1 big catch. Not really a factor. Too. Yeah, it was a great throw, great catch. But again, Joe Mixon wasn't in the game. That takes away from a lot of what Houston, I think, likes to do in terms of trying to control the clock. I'm not saying that was the difference in the game, but at the same time, too, Brian Flores, from the second play of the game, tip ball, Harrison Phillips got to get your hand up. That's why, get your hand up.
If you ain't getting home, get your hand up.
Get your hand up. Hand goes up, ball gets into the hands of Grugier Hill. Cam Bynum makes a great play on the ball for that second interception of the day. Again, we heard it last week from Brock Purdy, didn't we? The scheme. Everybody, Sam Darnold, early in his career when he was talking about seeing ghosts, this is what it is. This is what it is right now.
I asked Cam Bynum after week 2 against the 49ers. I said, why is no one testing you guys or taking deep shots? He said, they don't know where coverage you're in. He was like, it's really hard for a quarterback to take a deep shot and diagnose where you're going with the football when you still are trying to process what's going on 3 seconds after you snap the ball. Like, we see 8 guys at the line of scrimmage, in Flores' defense, and then 4 of them drop. So in the quarterback, you go through your progressions, you have your pre-snap reads, and you're like, all right, this is zone coverage. This is my read here. These are my progressions, 1, 2, 3. And then the moment you snap the ball, you're like, oh, crap, they're in man. And it's 6 people coming after me. Now I got to go hot, but there's a linebacker covering my hot route. It's way too much to process, especially for a young quarterback like C.J. Stroud that's never seen a Brian Flores type defense. So he's making these quarterbacks have nightmares the day before the game and after the game, what he's doing to them. And I think as long as he has a healthy secondary to play man-to-man defense, he can continue to evolve and switch it up. Because I told you guys last year, I asked Brian Flores, how much of your defense are you running with the lack of corner help that you have? This was last season.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I don't even have 50% of my playbook in because we don't have the corners that we need. I asked him this training camp, you got more of that playbook installed this year because of the corners? Oh, yeah. So it's like he's having fun with it.
Well, and the thing is, and maybe you know more about what Flores is thinking than most, it seems like they want to shut off the run first. They want the quarterback with the ball.
They want to shut off the run. They want
because
you to throw a quick game.
And granted, Mixon didn't play. Their backup didn't play, so they were running practice squad guys and averaged only under 3 yards per carry. So is that what he wants? Is that by design?
He's taking away what you want to do, then he's sending pressure your way, and he's forcing you to throw hot. If you guys go back and watch the game, you'll notice Shaq Griffin towards the end of the game jumped the pass from Tank Dell. Tank Dell made a miraculous catch, but it was an illegal formation or whatever, so the play got called back. But Shaq Griffin jumped it because he's thinking, all right, we're blitzing right now. I'm playing the hot route. So he's sitting flat-footed like, I know you're throwing quick because we're forcing you to throw quick. C.J. Stroud just made a phenomenal play. Tank Dell made an exceptional reroute and kind of got open, but that just shows what Flores is doing. They're funneling to what they want you to do, and that's try and run the ball. Then when you can't, we're going to confuse you at the line of scrimmage, so you have to throw quick. And then we're taking away your number 1 and 2 hot reads. And then when you do that as a quarterback, no one's looking for 3. At that point, it's like, I got to run and try and fight for my life.
Well, the funny thing is last week, Jordan Mason averaged 5 yards a carry and had a really, really good day against Minnesota's defense. But at the same time, too, didn't really make much of a difference.
Because they couldn't pass.
Exactly. I mean, that's if it's not one thing, it's another. You know, it's like trying to plug multiple holes in a sinking ship, and you're not going to be able to do it because before you know it, you're taking on water, and that's what it feels like playing against this Brian Flores defense. So, it's how much can you keep it up before somebody figures something out? Don't really know the answer to that question, but right now, doesn't seem like anybody's figuring it out right now.
No.
Matt LaFleur, very smart coach, he's a quality coach. I'm sure he's going to be spending all of his time trying to poke holes into that defense throughout the week. We'll see how the chess match works next week.
I'll tell you what, Jordan Love figured it out in that second contest versus the Vikings last year. But as I said, the Vikings were a zone coverage team last year. They're a man coverage team this year. So it's going to be a completely different defense that he'll face this week.
Okay, both quarterbacks healthy. If they are, it's early in the week. Do you start Willis or do you start Love?
I mean, from all the reports and all it sounds like is the reason why they didn't start Love today. It sounds like he could have possibly gone, but it's a bigger game next week. It's a conference game. It's worth more. You want your quarterback healthy. Even if Jordan Love could play today, I think the Packers probably made the right decision. Turned out to be absolutely the right decision not to play him today. Get him 1 week healthier for a divisional game, a very big divisional game. And if Green Bay wins, suddenly they're time to.
They better play Jordan Love. Willis is one-dimensional. He does a great job running the RPOs and things like that. But Flores would take that away, make him pass the ball, and then Green Bay will be in trouble. Jordan Love needs to play next week, but good luck because he's not going to be that mobile. So he's going to see a lot of guys in his face.
I agree. If Malik Willis plays next week, I think it's going to be a long day for Green Bay.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a long day.
All right. Speaking of long days, that's long enough for you to listen to us. We are going to end it here, but where do we find this? You weren't here in the first couple
I don't know.
weeks.
Pierre did a great job. I watched it on Fox Local.
I don't really know either.
I watched it on Fox Local and YouTube. That's where I saw you guys.
Fox Local, YouTube,
Spotify,
Apple.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
I just say anywhere you get your podcast.
Or just call us and we'll send you a link. Wherever, we'll help you out.
And we read your comments, so go ahead. You can throw them in there. We'll respond. Last week I called him Sam Bradford and got roasted 37 times for that one. So thank you for pointing that out. And I'm sure you'll find a flaw this week that I have laid out there. But if not, hey, watch next week and see if we make a mistake or if you agree, sign Darnold now.
Oh, my goodness.
Extend it. I'm just saying that it's a way to build.
All right.
It's a building block.
Save some for another episode. We'll be able to bring this conversation up for the next 14 weeks.
All right. That'll do it. Check us out on Fox 9, Vikings postgame tonight. Vikings Game Day Live. You'll be in Green Bay next Sunday. Mm-hmm. So look for that and follow his Twitter. What's Twitter?
Ahmad Hicks TV.
X.
At the Nuge Fox 9.
There you go. We'll see you. Vikings victorious 3-0. We'll see you after they beat the Packers.
Uh-oh.
Wow. Prediction.
Uh-oh.